From classrooms to the field, truth and laughter both revealed. Tune in for that special feel. Nampa School's always real. Welcome to Nampa, where dreams can grow. Matt and Tyler on the show. Welcome to Nampa, where dreams can grow. Matt and Tyler on the show. Welcome to Nampa, hear the beat.
Somebody used an AI
Join
engine.
the podcast.
What are you talking about? We hired, they might be, not
Giants?
they might be Giants.
No, wrong sound.
Bowling for soup?
But there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. I don't know.
More there.
Well, welcome in everybody to episode 15 of the Nampa School District Podcast. My name is Tyler Keefe. I'm the digital communications specialist for the Nampa School District. Along with me, as always, is Matthew J.
There you go.
Sizemore.
Well remembered, sir. Yes, as always, pleasure to be here. Matt Sizemore is my name. I think I finally memorized it. Community and Media Relations Specialist here at the Nampa School District. And what a show we have. I am beyond excited. And also, we should start out by mentioning that we are in a different location for the
Yes,
first time.
first
We're
one.
hitting the road across the street.
Yes, over here at Nampa High in the new eSports Spectator Arena. Is that what we're calling
Correct.
it? Spectator Arena. And we have a couple of guests with us to my left. And your left, if you're watching it online, is Cody Kreps, our Director of Information Services for the Nampa School District.
That's
Howdy,
right.
everybody.
Good to have you, Cody.
Thank you.
And to my right, he is above the line at all times. He's won every award that ever could be made. We have the head esports coach for Boise State University, Dr. Doc Haskell. That was like, did that cancel that out? I don't
I
think so.
think so. Double negative. Yeah. Hey.
Hey,
What's up?
Thanks for being here.
Oh my gosh, this is so cool. This space is so cool. We didn't have this when I was growing up. When I was growing up, it would have been a Pac-Man machine in the lunchroom, but this is something way cooler.
Awesome. Well, we are so happy to have you here today, and especially here in our esports
So
spectator arena, because what a lot of people might not know, or which you should know. First off, Doc here commands. I'd say, would you say? I don't even know if I want to ask you. I know you're humble, but probably the most prolific esports program in or collegiate program in the country right now. I know you're at least top 3, if not number 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's who's measuring and when they're measuring, right? Because Yale was one of the first football powers in 1869, right?
Sure.
But Alabama says that they're terrible. It's what do you count as wins? What is indisputable is almost 1,500 wins, which is the most in college esports Division
Insane.
I. That's 12, soon to be 13 Mountain West titles, 4 national titles, 23 other conference titles. And so by those measures, it's going all right. It's going all right.
And this is only a span of 8 years.
This
7
is
years?
year 8 for us. Yeah. So when I started, I thought it might be cool if I could reach the win total as a head coach of Greg Patton, who for the Broncos was their tennis coach for decades and amassed somewhere in the neighborhood of 900 wins. We're playing with
geez.
monopoly money in esports because we can have a match a day on average, right? We'll have 200 a year. So the math, I mean, it's a made up number in that sense, right? It just they don't compare. But just short of 1,500 wins now. About 2,000 total matches in our 8 years.
And of course, we can't forget, because we have to mention, and I know you're not going to, but this man right here. Now, tell me if I'm forgetting something. National Esports Coach of the Year in 2020, Esports Director of the Year in 2020, Collegiate Ambassador of the Year 2021, and Best Collegiate Director of the Year in 2022. What am I forgetting?
That sounds like a list.
Yeah. It is a list.
Yeah, it's funny, because they move the titles of these around in different organizations. I mean, like boxing, it's like belts. There are all these different organizations that want to give their thing, and I've been very blessed and privileged to have been named a few of those times. I don't ever want to win another one. Truly. I think it would be amazing to be nominated with people I really respect, but it doesn't do me any benefit to, to do those things. I still have to take out the recycling. There's no advantages that come from it, but lots of colleagues who probably, who definitely deserve those kinds of titles.
Nice.
So to kind of start off, I know we've been just throwing out esports. People out there might not even know what esports is.
They're so confused.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, what is esports? And then I'm going to ask a follow-up to you, Cody, which led to this.
I'll just give it to you simply. It's competitive video games. Like schools and colleges attract the best rowers, the best basketball or volleyball players they can find. Colleges and universities, over 800 now, scholarship, competitive gamers to play against and hopefully beat other schools in their conference.
No, that's good. So Cody, we're in the Nampa High NSD. We're in Nampa High, but really NSD esports spectator arena, as we kind of just coined it today. But what led to this, and it's really been since last February when this all just started to be, and now here we are a few short months later, and it's like we're literally in the space now. So kind of walk us through the story. I don't think Matt really knows the story, so it's going to be first for him as well.
Yes.
So we had conversations about esports here before that event that you're talking about, but it was more just conversations on what we can do and what that might look like. And honestly, I didn't know all of what it would take to do what we did. So luckily, I am on the Idaho Educational Technology Association board, and we hold a tech conference every year, Ed Tech Conference, downtown Boise at the Boise Center. And last year, our theme was eSports. Can't remember what the theme name was. Take it to the next level or something like that.
Yeah, something like level up.
Level up. Thank you.
Oh.
Anyway, so I think just because they were the board was looking for me to do something instead of just sitting around being a Mr. Funny Guy. So they put me, I pitched the idea of we should have a pop-up esports event. So I got a hold of some partners that were happy to bring equipment in, and HP brought in some machines. Marshall's did a lot of work for video and stuff. And then I partnered with Boise State to do the actual live stream and the shoutcasting. And that event was amazing. We had local teams from the state come in. They competed. One of them was Nampa High, and they absolutely.
And with Nampa High, though, they dominated. I know you're going to say that, but something special happened with Nampa High specifically with those kids.
So they did. So they completely dominated the 2-day tournament. We had some of the vendors that were in the vendor hall saw our kids play. They were absolutely amazed by what they were doing. So they decided to sponsor some of them. Wow. So all 3 kids got decked out with the Lenovo gaming PCs of their choice. They all got custom esports jerseys. They got some free coaching. There's some other things that STS Education and Lenovo hooked them up with. Other cool thing is that some of the kids that were there are awesome vendors. I sent them home with the gaming chairs they sat in.
Nice.
Which was fantastic because
cool.
I had one kid tell me, we're using old broken office chairs. And so this team took home those gaming chairs. So that's pretty
well, and
pretty fantastic.
He's not going to give you this, but let me tell you. So I've been in a few of these spaces. Your vision for what this needed to be was awesome, because I mean you brought in these vendors and things like this, but you had a vision that not only were they going to be on a stage, it was going to be an elevated stage, it was going to be like DJ lit kind of stage, massive LED screen so that people could watch it. It was your idea to make sure that there were shoutcasters in the room. Sometimes people will just put desks against the wall to make more floor space and invite people to walk up behind the players. That's not what you did. You elevated these kids, and they are talented kids, right? To be able to compete and to have people cheer for them in a way that many of them have never experienced before. It was as prime an event as you could have. And it showed. I mean, I still show. We have pictures of that event in our facility because it was so cool.
That's amazing, and I do appreciate all that.
You
coming was amazing. Another really amazing thing was our superintendent. who didn't know anything about esports.
This is awesome.
And he's down here watching people standing on their feet and
he's screaming
and screaming
Yeah.
and yelling for Nampa High
Yeah.
to
Nice.
win. I did win a lunch bet in that, so that was pretty good
Yay.
too. I enjoyed that with another tech director at a different district, but yeah, I appreciate that. It was absolutely a fun time. And when Greg and or Dr. Russell saw that and Mr. Stauffer saw that, basically Mr. Stauffer told me, let's build it. If you build
Well,
it, they will come.
Yeah.
And what happened with that, we left your arena and we were on the corner of, was it Front and Bannock, I think, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I remember that conversation of both Courtney and Dr. Russell saying, we get it now.
Yep.
Have fun.
You know, you bring up a really good point, and it was your vision that got them there, because I think we all have this moment where we see it. We hear about it, we know what esports is, but until somebody sees the kids competing and immediately takes a side, they don't have to understand the game. It's just like football. Grandma doesn't understand football, but she knows that she's a Bulldog fan for life, right?
Right.
She's going to go there and cheer. She doesn't understand what's happening. Who got the ball? I mean, you kind of tell when your team is doing well, but maybe that's it. It is seeing it in that environment that you're like, oh, that's what this is. So you creating that, just that vision for people to grab onto it is what allows them to progress in their understanding of where it fits.
I agree. And a lot of our ideas did come from Boise State, and
We stole them from somebody else, I'm sure.
And Boise State was very happy to host the event. But the reason why I did it, even though they're right by each other, we were doing tours at your, was I wanted the school districts to see that this is something you can build.
Right.
And we built it in a day.
Mhm.
So, and maybe you can't afford all the fancy stuff that was there. We couldn't afford it. But we had, again, partners that brought it in. We didn't get to take it home or anything like that. But there's things you can do, and you can build something in your district that has that wow factor, that can draw the kids in, that can want that's why with the spectating arena
Yeah.
I mean, that's very important. And you brought that up to us, and you're absolutely right, because seating is important. Having a place to really get into that moment. You're watching kids, as I used to say before I got into this, play soccer with cars, right? When you're watching it on your phone or you're watching it on just a video, it's okay. This is kind of. But what I watched that day with our Nampa High kids was I watched plays. And I watched people
Yes.
holding back. I watched people getting in position for passing.
Strategy.
There was coaching there, and that just floored me and amazed me. And I think that also is what got to Dr. Russell was this is fantastic.
Yeah.
And you see the kids working on it. It's the same thing that you see in other sporting events, and it was amazing to me. That changed my whole outlook. And even though I was already interested in it because my son's a gamer. He got me back into it. I'm usually one of the first ones to go down, but it was just very, very exciting.
And it opened people's eyes to. I like that you did that over there, right? I mean, we always invite people to come in and use our space, but being able to stand it up there in a day gave people exactly that believability that that's just this stuff. Right?
Right.
Yeah. Just being able to see the Legos, essentially that build that thing, you're like, oh, I could do this. I could do this.
Yeah.
And hopefully, it's one of the things we encourage when people come into the Boise State Arena, which is maybe the most DIY of all time, right? Is that, oh, that's just that. Oh, we could do that.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
It's the I can do that kind of vibe, that standing up a space of your own, not having it built out by a production company, it makes the biggest difference.
I agree.
And Doc, obviously, as you can see, we are in the infancy here when it comes to esports spectator arena, or an arena. Sure. Thanks, language. But
He words really good.
He does work good.
He's a
someone
good
who-
worker.
Next time.
We've been impressed sometimes.
Thank you. Jeez, I'm just so in awe. So there was a point though when you were the one saying, hey, we can do this
Mhm.
about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
What was it? And I know you weren't the only one. There were a lot of other
Yeah, Brett
people.
Shelton, namely. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember talking to Brett. Man, I came here about 7 years ago, so I think you guys were about a year in. Was the first time I talked to Brett about the program when it was up and coming.
Mhm.
You've been the head coach the entire time since its inception, but you're also one of the people to help start and create the esports program at BSU. What was it to you that made you feel? I know you were with Boise State beforehand as well as a professor and still
Yeah.
are, but what was it that made you say we need an esports program? Why is this so important?
The origin story. Let me give you the origin story in a haiku. 575. Professor, research. Esports is going to be huge. Oh crap! I'm in charge. We brought it forward. I was doing research on something else and brought it forward. Like, there's about 35 schools that are doing this, and there's a lot of energy behind it. There's sponsorships, there's grants, there's this thing. There aren't a lot of Division I schools in this yet, right? It was Utah, it was Miami, Ohio at that point. We'd heard rumblings at Georgia State. We're like, we could get in pretty big. I took the idea forward to Brett. Brett is my department head. Like, yeah, let's take this forward to the dean to the provost, then other college deans like Gordon Jones, who's now the president at CWI, who said, yeah, let's do this. And before I was aware of what was happening, I was in charge of it. But if you know a little of my history, I came into the university 18 years ago directly from teaching high school band. I knew Sam, who was here for decades, right? I mean, he's a colleague. What I do now is what I did then. I get really talented individuals, soloists, if you will, to perform together when it matters.
Soloists, that's good.
And that's essentially the same thing, just no oboes, which is, I think everybody is happy is a good deal. The idea, but so we started it as a, hey, this could be big. I knew that someday there'd be that singularity moment where there'd be more college esports programs than college football programs. And when we started, it was about 880. And 880 is the number of football programs. It continues to drop, right? Two-year schools are moving away from it. CTE and some of those other issues related to football have caused it to diminish in places that just can't afford it. Plus, a lot of colleges are just being incorporated into other things. Two universities become one. This is real common back east, where they used to have a university maybe as frequently as ABC stores would be in Honolulu, right? You could jump from roof to roof of ABC stores. The universities back east were kind of like that. That said, I think we passed that 2 years ago, that singularity moment. There are over 1,200 4-year to 2-year college esports programs that are officially recognized and supported in some way by their university. Over 800 have scholarships today.
First off, that's amazing. Second off, in those 8 years, though, after you guys make this decision, oh no, I'm in charge. Now I have to do this.
Oh crap!
Yeah, that was it.
I'm in
Sorry.
charge. Yeah.
You have become, as I mentioned at the beginning of the program, the Boise State esports program has become one of the premier programs in the entire country. And some of the things just to look over it: Institution of the Year, Collegiate Player of the Year, Emiliano Durtho.
Yeah, the esports equivalent of the Heisman.
Yes.
And when you see him, you're like, okay, I know, I get Heisman.
Yeah.
He's jacked.
Yeah, he's a big dude. Fun story. I had the pleasure of playing him at Rocket League, as you know.
Pleasure, though?
For others.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
Amusement.
Yeah, that's what it is. And he beat me. I think the final score was 23-1, and my one was on accident. I accidentally hit it in, and I don't think he was going off their strategy of me trying to. I accidentally hit it, and he was like, "Oh, that was an accident." So I think he was a little upset that I even got one on him. But you know what? He's the Heisman
He
of
still
esports.
stews about it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Outstanding Production Team of the Year, which we're definitely going to get into because there's so many aspects of esports behind the scenes, things going on that people can branch off, that students can branch off to with that. But what would you say? Obviously, there's no one thing that goes into it says now we're a good program. what do you think it is about you, your team, your program over the years, just for our own sake, as we're in the infancy, that has made you guys such a prominent program here in the country?
Honestly, we've found talented people and given them access to come in and help. And as I think about that for the Nampa School District specifically, there are people who are going to hear this who are going to think of, oh, well, my brother-in-law does this thing, these kids. Oh, I have this idea, or I'm sitting around with this piece of electronic equipment, this old camera that I should just donate. Truly, it is that we've not had our own idea about how it should be, and we've just kind of looked around to see how we could bring other people in. We were lucky enough to incept Dr. Bob Kustra at the time and get him to say the words, we wanted to be the Alabama of esports, right? Yep. Nampa could be the modern day of esports, or the St. John Bosco of esports. These regional magnetic powers that are just epically good at, two of those schools are epically good at apparently at everything, right? But it was that idea that he very quickly set what the expectation was and then applied it to us. The other thing I think that we've done to maybe be good first on our campus, because the truth is you have to win for your students first. Doesn't matter what other people really think. It's great that they have caught some part of the vision that we have internally, but it's for our kids, and it's primarily for our campus. So Bob Kustra uttering, and Dr. Trump has done it a number of times and expanded on it, but this idea of the Alabama of esports was to link what we were doing with athletic iconography and culture, and to help people understand that the thing that we're doing is just like football, but it's in a different place. It's on a different scale, and competition looks a little different. But it is the core of what we do. We have Wyoming this week in esports because we play all of our football opponents same week as the football team. Again, one of those just athletic alignments. Well, we're gonna beat them, and we're 100% again when we play the one exception was a bowl game, but we play the opponent and beat them in the same week. The football team always wins.
Ooh,
pretty cool.
Wow.
So, but it was that it started with the Alabama of esports, but that alignment with we're going to try to do some things. We don't know what games we're going to play each week against like Wyoming, or last week it was SJSU. But we know that rivalry is important. Who's the next? Are we done? Are we done with preps as we record this? Is there a football game this week?
Yeah.
Who?
No,
high school.
over.
It's
High
in
school
the
football.
state championship.
Oh, gotcha.
But,
Okay.
but
But-
Nampa's done.
Yeah,
Okay.
Nampa's done.
Oh,
Nampa's
sorry. I
Nampa's-
should have checked that before
That's
I
all
was.
right.
No, you're
No.
good.
Apologies to the audience. No, but I mean,
Young teams.
making those rivalries and those celebrations significant and tying them to athletics is something a lot of colleges didn't do early, but now a lot of colleges do. It was survival for us. This is a blue turf culture, unless you're from the band up north. But it really is, blue turf culture down here. So all of our approach and philosophy just mirrors what they do, and we're very cognizant of what they do because it's a language that works, it's a culture that works, and we can attract the kind of people we want to come and be Broncos.
Nice.
Well, and something with it, we're talking, the equivalent to athletics, basically.
Right.
But for some of the kids that are in the esports team, they're not the same kid that's going to be on the basketball court, that's going to be out playing on the field, but they have that niche, and now they can be a part of something that they never had a chance to be a part of before, other than, not to poke fun of it, playing a video game in their basement.
Yeah. Well, and let me bring something in that'll make all the students cringe, but the parents smile, is that athletics and activities are always a vehicle through which we can build a stronger culture of success. So our players, as your players, have academic requirements. They don't travel, they don't start if they are failing stuff. So because they love this thing that we're supporting them in, we have greater access to motivate them to do the things that they need to do to be more successful in school. And my first question when somebody says, hey, what do I need to do to come play for Boise State? My first question is, what's your GPA? 3.8 or higher. If you're 3.8 or higher, you qualify for a ton of other scholarships at the university. And whether you come in as a broadcaster or someone in the production team or as a player, you're going to get scholarshiped if your grades are good. So when people are like, oh, I'm really good at this game, what do I need to grind? You need to grind math, right? You need to grind math. You need to grind history, economics. You need to just be good at being a student, because we can make smart people into great gamers. We can't make great gamers into smart people.
Right.
It just doesn't work that way.
And so kind of shifting a little bit of focus on from that to something else. I have a buddy up in Waterloo, Canada.
Ooh, yeah.
And they're trying to start their esports program, but they're getting a little bit of apprehension from their leadership at their school and their school board. So what would you say to him as to, try to get their admin to understand and see how valuable this really can be, and to get them to embrace it?
Depending on the person, I think the most valuable thing is to identify other universities that they compete with that are doing it and offer the opportunity to kick their butts. Because, so AJ Dimmick is the director at University of Utah, and he's a friend, became friends through this process. We've used each other many times to inspire a little creative jealousy. He'll be going into a meeting and it's like, hey, Doc, send me pictures of your stage. Send me pictures, like this kind of stuff. Hey, do you have that mock-up of the other space you were talking about? We're sending stuff back and forth all the time, because University of Utah does not want to be outshined by this. We have blue turf. How dare, right? And that is okay. I discovered long ago that as colleagues, especially collegiate colleagues, we compete, but we are not in competition with one another. Everybody is fighting for recognition, appreciation, and resources on their own campuses, just as you are here, right? This room is a testament that these resources are important, right? We want to create this space for these kids. It'll be gravitational, and it is. It's amazing. As adults, we always say, "Oh, I wish we had this when I was in school." No, I'm just grateful we have it now. But that kind of. So truly, what I would say to him is, the people, you can't convince people significantly, but what you can do is show them something and let them convince themselves, like the space that you created.
Yes. Right.
Is you don't need to make hey, can you share your deck with me? No, just walk in the room.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it, you can't get it, but you will get it.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of that is out literally in the audience right now. They just walked out to a meeting, but we have our district activities director. Yep. He was walking in. He just kind of had this look of awe, and then he goes, "Hey, tell me about it." And then he literally said, "I get it. All right, let's go." And it's one of those things. I remember, Courtney telling you, if you build it, they'll come.
Totally.
And so it kind of fits with that. But then on the flip side of it, if we don't have a teacher or a coach who's a gamer, and I know a lot of your history and the videos that I've seen where you're not a gamer, but you're this stupid, fantastic coach. How can you get that
stupid in a good way?
Yeah, in a good way.
I'll
stupid awesome.
I won't accept fantastic. But stupid. I think we could find some. Resources.
Did you hear how many wins he has?
Exactly. Okay. But you're not a proclaimed gamer. So how do you get that across?
Boise State fan. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, you know.
All right. That's fine. That's fine. We beat them pretty good too.
Yeah.
I think over 10 times now. Although UW did beat us in
pretty bad
in Cramento this week. So
nice.
But it'll take.
I'm thinking football, not esports.
Yeah, I know.
When I said
I can tell that.
No. So What's your question?
Yeah.
Basically,
What's my hair care product?
no. So you're not a proclaimed gamer, but
Mm.
yet you're an awesome coach. So how do you convince that teacher at a school who wants to coach but doesn't game?
Yeah.
I think that there's a bigger So the question is how. So my mom was a teacher. I've been a teacher for 25 years. The truth of great teachers, and y'all know the one I'm thinking of, or several of them, where you could I'm going to take Mrs. Give me a name.
Smith.
Doubtfire.
Miss Doubtfire.
All right. Well, say Miss Smith, and Miss Smith's teaching French right now, Mademoiselle Smith. And you're going to take that amazing teacher completely out of their area, and you're going to plug them in ag. Now, there would be a curve, but my money is on Smith becomes the greatest ag teacher you've ever seen, with no experience in history, because that's not the skill set is not the subject. The skill set is learning from and getting students to engage in something. So if I accept any credit for being a good coach, it's because I'm a better student. So I ask the students, okay, explain that. You use that word. Tell me what that word meant. Okay. So your role is to tank. So just break it down for me. What does a tank need to do? Tank needs to take space. How does a tank take space? Well, by pressing W, walking forward. Well, how do you know when to press forward? Well, you got to wait till cooldowns. Oh, okay. What cooldowns? Well, because this person's playing this. It's just asking these things, and then become a student of those things. And then constantly double check. Okay, so we're running full brawl comp here. Do we want to run this brawl comp with Cass, or do we want to run it with May? And they're like, well, I don't know. We'll see. I'm like, hey, they do run a lot of May. So if you want to do that May to May matchup, I think our May is better. And people are like, all right, coach, yeah, you got it. So they taught me those things and continue to teach me those things. And then when they need them, I can remind them what they know and what's important. But it begins from a position of what's important. I think of it a lot of times, and this reference is getting dated. There's got to be a better NBA coach. But I think of Eric Spoelstra. Eric Spoelstra did not teach LeBron, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade how to play basketball, but he did teach them how to play together. Probably the best one for our generation is someone like Phil, right?
Bill Jackson.
Bill Jackson.
Yeah.
Who took some of the most talented players and got them to championship level, where a lot of other coaches had similar or better talent and couldn't because he couldn't get them to play together. And so much of that is just being directed at what they need in the moment. My players will tell you I'm the most successful water boy of all time because when we're at a conference, this weekend we're in Sacramento, we're on stage, a student starts to stand up to fill their water bottle. I'm like, nope. Give me that. That's my job when you're here, because they have a very specific job. My job is not to teach them the game in the moment. It's to get them as prepared as we can. Does not standing up to get water help us win? Maybe not that one thing, but the collection, the marginal gains of getting them ready to play is what solves that coin flip when we're equal to the team across from us, right?
That makes complete sense. Team builders, teachers, getting people to work cohesively together. Do you find, though, I know that I can only imagine how many coaches, esports coaches around the country at this point. Do you find that it is mostly, as we eventually will be searching for one, do you find that it's mostly from teacher backgrounds that are becoming these coaches, or are there sports coaches that are making the switch over?
There's sports coaches that are definitely making the switch as they're learning the games. Whoever that person, whatever their background is, it's that core set of just being a teacher, just someone who wants to be around a group of semi-obnoxious people. And I'll tell you, Coach Danielson would say the same thing about the players that he loves at Boise State. I've been in the presence of Coach when he's with some of his players that came to our facility, and they're just as nerdy as my players are, right? So part of it is just thriving in an environment where young people create chaos and not being just frightened by it. That teacher mentality and wanting to help them be as successful as possible and not being afraid to ask questions and be the one in the conversation who doesn't know.
Yeah. That was a great scene, seeing you guys when the team came over and Capel's last second, that disappointment that was there.
Yeah, they're gamers too.
Yeah, For sure. I wanted to ask you, and going back to kind of what you were saying, Tyler, about how does one start an esports program? There's a lot of incentives now, things that maybe weren't as prominent 8 years ago when you started, but now, even just talking to you, I saw you last week. You had me over at the Giving Games, which thank you for having. That was awesome.
That was so cool.
Oh man, I got to play Mike Prater once again. And,
he loved it. You beat him like a drum every year.
Yeah, it's 2 years in a row.
Sorry, Mike.
That happens.
He's a regular listener, I'm told. So.
Yeah, oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. But the amount of scholarships in the esports world now has pretty much blown my mind, because we were talking about that. I didn't realize how many more there were than just the players. Let's talk about that a little bit and how these opportunities.
It blows people's mind until you're reminded of this fact, right? That universities, their admission policies, their scholarships, are all a wager on, will somebody come here? Will they study and graduate? And will they make an impact? Boards of education grant money every year so that states can produce a certain number of, we call these, just these, the word will come to me in a second,
Sure.
but these positions, like, Boise State or Idaho State or any of these universities get money so that they'll produce 28 nurses annually, right? And 6 radio, whatever it is, they have these kind of quotas that they're trying to graduate to, and so universities are already in the business of making good bets on people, right? There are all these other degrees that we definitely want them there, but we're putting our resources into those things already. So whether it's rowing, which I contend is no weirder than esports, right? It does not translate, certainly like a just, crew rowing, like where you're just pulling one side. I mean, there's not a lot of need for that. I've not seen that on the job boards. We need a left-handed rower.
Look harder.
Yeah, exactly. Not since the maybe since the colonial wars, but that idea. But we still recruit these incredible people to come and to do these things because they are the best at what they do. And we want to bind them to what we do at our university, give them an educational experience. People say, well, so do you have a lot of pros? Well, yeah, we've got a lot of gamers that are and have played at the pro level, but there's no amateurism restrictions. So Jonathan Foraker, clear, is in Stockholm, Sweden right now for the Overwatch World Championships, as is Matt Mercadante. Both of them are students at Boise State. They're part of our teams, but all of their competitive time is given over now to this. It will come where we have to give over the competitive time to our Olympic athletes, right? Our Olympic esports players. We don't know who they are yet. I think that we've probably met them along the way because we're getting pretty close to that. But so scholarships, right? We want to place good bets. Guess what? These are pretty smart kids, right? And they're studying engineering. They're studying. We don't have pre-med, but at other universities, you see a lot of pre-med in some of the games, specifically League of Legends. You see, we've got electrical engineering, we've got computer science, cybersecurity. I mean, those you're like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense, programming and things like that. But history, and we've had music majors come through. This is just the thing that they're really good at that we can get them to come to Boise State for. And when they get that degree and then they go out and they impact our community and other communities, that is more of the Boise State, that blue turf thinking that just gets spread all over. I mean,
and something near and dear to my heart, broadcasting.
Oh yeah,
as well. I mean, the whole people don't even know. They'll see if they tune into you guys playing. They know the players, and I mean that's the case in really any sport. They know the players.
Yeah.
But the behind the scenes that goes on, and the scholarships that can come with that too. I mean, talk about your team behind the scenes a little bit. Not only the shoutcasters, but I mean your guys in the production and the branches that they can take to incredibly successful careers.
Yeah, we've got, and this year again, we've got another like national award nominated broadcaster, broadcast team. The joke is, and if you've been to our facility, you get it. We're a TV studio with a national championship esports team. We broadcast 30 to 40 hours a week. And you're like, well, broadcast, everything you can imagine, from live esports commentary to studio shows to we produce a lot of content that is not live, right? And you've been voicing some of the Above the Line, which is a very football centric kind of themed. What do we call that?
Documentary. Type
Yeah,
of-
documentary.
yeah.
Hard Knocks, All or Nothing kind of style, following the players. Docu-series, following the goods and the bads, right? Kids getting sick and having to do all sorts of So we do a ton of that. So we have 25 scholarshiped players. We have 40 student employees.
Okay.
So we do scholarships casters from time to time, but we bring those folks in. We hire students on campus to fill these roles in production, just like they would if they were in, on the basketball production squad, or they're doing some of the other club sport or Olympic sport broadcasting. They're part of our team, and they're part of that 30 to 40. Plus, for us, we do a lot of contract work. So we've done stuff for the NFL and the USO. We just finished that up. The live service members competing for Super Bowl tickets in Tampa and things like that with the USO. I'm forgetting some of the other ones we've done. We've broadcast, I think, 4 national championships in collegiate esports. So we did not know that was going to be such an important part of what we did and how we made our budget annually, but we knew that we'd have to tell our own story on the Boise State campus because there's that football team that's pretty good. So we had to get good at the storytelling. We did not know that it was going to be such a key piece for us to attract players. And I'll tell you this one thing. Gene Blameyer famously made some unbelievable agreements in the early 2000s that put Boise State on Wednesday night football games and Thursday night football games. Some of y'all remember this. It did more to raise the awareness of Boise State. And with our broadcasting, some people learn about our program, even though they're in a very rich collegiate space. They learn about our program through seeing the broadcasting. It is an unbelievable calling card that helps us to recruit. And when a kid like Cannon Miller or Amanda Bailey from Arkansas and Pennsylvania, who are both freshmen on our Overwatch team this year, when we're recruiting that process, mom and dad and Uncle Jim, they can watch every one of their matches from those unique locations, and it helps us recruit because they don't lose contact with their kids.
I'm going to start calling Arkansas a unique location, by the way.
Okay.
And so with that, as we kind of wrap up, Cody, I was going to see if there's anything else that you wanted to kind of ask Doc or just throw out there, any of that stuff.
I've got questions for Cody.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So I want to go back a little bit to that broadcasting side. So because I do think that's important. There's kids out there that aren't very good at the games, but they are really good at content creation.
Yep.
Right. They want to be a YouTuber. So they may want to talk about who's playing or something like that. So, and we have in this area, it's not completed yet, but we do have a broadcast.
It's going to be so cool.
Reason. Yeah. My question is that also part of, would that also be part of the eSport coach's job, is to direct that? Or at a high school level, would we look more towards a broadcast teacher or something like that to help in that area? How does that work?
Good question.
So what's unique about broadcast is that it continues to evolve and change, right? If you'd have told anybody 10 years ago, well, the TV news is gonna take a sharp turn, right?
Right.
Anybody who works in television now will tell you there's always a skeleton crew in those buildings, right? They're the massive buildings with all these desks and like 9 employees. I mean, technology has made it possible, and the way that it has distributed has made it kind of necessary to have smaller and smaller crews. So it is less important that somebody be trained exactly in the job that they're going to be asked to do elsewhere, and more that they fall in love with the discipline,
Gotcha.
right? And falling in love with the discipline means you get to push the buttons and make the mistakes and touch the knobs and try something. I do coach our broadcasting. Ray Barnes is our full-time broadcast director and manager and does most of the execution of those shows. But I'll come in and tell the casters, okay, so I want you to eliminate these words, and I want you to start to, focus on explaining things this way. And I want you to give a little bit more time here. And when you come in, I want you to have something ready and loaded. And we'll run them through drills. We'll give them examples. That's the great thing is with all this, you can show somebody something and go, what's special about that, right?
Gotcha.
We talk a lot about vocabulary. What's the not the vocabulary that's spoken, but the visual vocabulary and the vocabulary of what makes a good broadcast, right? You'll watch ESPN, you'll see kind of this constantly moving steady shot safe cam. Well, that's in the vocab now, right?
Right.
A student pointed that out. Like, I wish we could get that camera to move. And I'm like, oh, I bet you we can. $100 later off of B&H, we have just an auto tracking,
Yeah.
thing. And those kinds of things are just all about engaging in and falling in love with the discipline. So we don't know what it will become for them. One of our most successful students is not yet a graduate, Peyton Wilkin, who lives out in this area. He is a YouTuber. He started with us as a player, started making some videos, loved the video making process, the storytelling process. And then his channel blew up. Bought himself a house last year, the jerk.
Wow.
And amazing that he is driven, he is unique, but we got to be part of his launch pad, right? And so that's what I would say relative to all of these things. Analysts, website and stat people, anything that they're interested in. I mean, theater tech famously has a lineage and a family tree. A theater tech person will say, oh, well, my first stage manager was, Emily, and she taught me how to make a wallet out of gaff tape. And he's like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. These small steps become loves of discipline and develop into careers, even though we at this table, we cannot visualize what that will become. Falling in love with and becoming just on probably the wrong side of obsessed with something is usually what leads to success, right?
Gotcha.
And so we're always looking for those people who are like, oh, I think I could redesign that lighting scheme.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Let's break it. Yeah.
So as we can start to wrap up, Cody,
Yeah, it's lunchtime. I heard the bell.
Yeah,
that was the lunch bell.
what, and you might not have an answer for this, but and obviously our eSports Spectator Arena not quite done yet. Obviously, there's a lot that needs to go into the broadcast.
So cool. People need to see it.
Yeah, and thank you. Yeah, it's this is my first time seeing it as well today, and the job you and your guys have done are amazing. When do you have any type of estimate as to when we might be able to, as a district, get our first competitions going on in here?
So maybe. So really what we are doing, just to give you a little bit of background too, this is at Nampa High. It is going to have Nampa High School Bulldog branding in a way too, but this is also NSD eSports Arena for all of our schools. So
Okay.
you're not seeing all of what we've done. So through some very fantastic partners, which I'm not going to name yet, but some people that I do work with and vendors that I have that love our kids and love to see programs be successful. They have done some amazing things with the ability to make stuff cheaper. With that, I was able also to deck out each of the secondary schools with 6 Omen, HP Omen
Nice.
Wow.
machines, and all everything that goes, all the gear. Now the technology, not necessarily the furniture, but the technology will be the same at those schools that they'll have in here. So when they come, because this is a place for our teams to compete. Our Columbias, our Skyviews, our West Middle Schools,
Oh, yeah.
our Lone Stars, our all of them. And I did that at all levels because I want the middle schools to feed our high schools, to feed Boise State. That's my
Yes.
ultimate goal.
Go
And-
Broncos.
Right, go Broncos. I went to school at Boise State, so I'm a little I'm a fan. But anyway, so that's the side that you don't see here, and we're slowly building that out. They're finding folks, and this side, because it should be completed, I'm hoping by the middle of December. And then we'll get training so we can train the trainer, and then start looking at how our next steps. That's kind of my hope and my goal. We still got all the AV to put in. None of the screens are up. I'm doing a lot of digital stuff just because I want to be able to brand it to the school that's competing when they come in.
Yeah.
And it can be Nampa High all the way, but when Columbia is competing with somebody else from a different district, it can be Columbia all the way. Or it could be Nampa High versus Skyview all the way, or West.
You've got some basketball matchups that are coming up in the spring.
Oh,
that
yeah.
I think tying those together and getting both those
yeah.
groups in here would be amazing.
That was a fantastic idea about trying to tie it to something that matches that same season, because then, the kids can travel with another team if they can't get here. And so great idea. That's what we're looking for, is ideas.
I'll be here for that.
And you're invited to every one of them.
Please, yes. Anything you want to do, you come.
Cool.
And for any kids who maybe are hearing this episode, or maybe just heard about our impending esports program in general, is now the time they start reaching out to somebody to say, hey, I'm interested, I want to get in on this?
Anytime's the time.
And how do they do that? Who do they
So
go to?
they could always reach out to your principal. I would say you may or may not have an esports club yet, but show your interest. The kids showing their interest is what's going to drive this even further, or it's going to help build it. It's going to take the kids. This was built for the kids, 100% built for the kids. And this room was built to show so the parents can come down and watch their kids and be proud of what they're doing. And not just on the stage. That's why we mocked up the Boise State broadcast area.
Yes.
There's windows. You can see through there to see what those kids are doing, to see the action.
Watch them make the donuts in there.
Right.
I mean, we lucked out that wall existed, but it has proven to be maybe one of the greatest things, because people can actively watch what's happening, and then they understand the skill behind it. For the any family members who are listening, ask your friends, friends' children, whatever. Hey, aren't you playing that fork knife? Are you gonna play that? Are you gonna play that for your school? Yeah. You should play fork knife with your school, right? I mean, truly, whatever the game is, those kids just need to come forward and find an opportunity to compete or just participate. Some people don't like to compete,
Correct.
and they just want to be around it. They just want to participate, and gosh, there's so many roles to do.
And exactly. There's a ton that goes into this, and it has more than just being good with a keyboard and a mouse or a joystick, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask one more question of you before I get to my random question,
Yes,
which I've been
good.
thinking of still. It's almost there.
It's truly random.
No, it really is. Yeah.
Very rare.
So it's more of a personal question, but it applies to anybody. So my son is 11. He loves playing video games. I'll play not fork knife, but Fortnite with him. And
Is that a new one? Okay.
Yeah. He's to go back to what I was saying, he's stupid good at it.
Stupid good.
So at the age of 11, what advice would you give him or any other kids that young that want to eventually get up to BSU for the esports and then beyond?
I want your answer first.
What advice would I have for him?
Yes.
Yeah, 11-year-old.
For an 11-year-old? Well, if I go off of what my son said to me, who didn't want to play Overwatch until he found out that we were building an esports program here, and now he practices Overwatch all the time, is I think you just need to, what you do is you need to ask the questions. You need to seek the resources, right? I don't know if that's the correct answer or not. But,
I don't know that there is a correct answer.
right. I mean, I don't know. So
I know what I go to, but I'm interested in. Yeah, I mean, truly ask the question. It's like, okay, well, what is competitive, right? So for the 11-year-old, part of it is if you think it's less important to know what game at 11 and better understand what it means to evaluate being good at something. I think we all we'll pick up a bowling ball and we'll go, oh, maybe I'm the best bowler. Maybe this is my thing, right? Your thing usually doesn't hit you like a bolt of lightning. It comes from struggling through something and then finding out that, well, okay, I figured out how to get better at it. So So maybe it's Fortnite, maybe it's whatever follows Fortnite, or something completely different. Maybe it's the cello, but it's the process of trying to figure out who's good, what does it take to be good, and asking the questions, how do you know if you're good, right? An old band director of mine used to say, you never realize how good you can become until you realize how much you suck. So it is that process of evaluation. Like, I enjoy this world a lot. Who's good? How do I tell if I'm good? And then how can I try what I do against the better and better and better opponents? And that's where Tony Hawk came from, right? Famously, just people. I mean, at what 12, he had a local skate shop thing, but he was really interested in figuring out what it took to be good at something. And it doesn't surprise you, these multi-millionaire. I forget what the name of the tour that he organized and ran for years. That wasn't related to his skateboard. That was related to the other thing, which is, what does it take to make something cool? What does it take to be good at something? It's that constantly asking that question, and that's where it begins. It's like, you love doing this. How do you know? How do you know if you're good, right? And whatever it evolves into is what it evolves into. But that's the process for everybody.
Yeah.
I would also say too that a lot of really good gamers that are out there that are kids or still in middle school or high school, they're big into the Black Ops and the Call of Duties, and those are not games that are going to be played.
Nope.
At
We don't
middle
recruit
schools
them or scholarship them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but they're very good at that. So transfer
Mm-hmm.
those skills to a game that will be played.
And I was
if you
gonna
can.
just ask, actually, right off of that, good little segue there. The games that are actually played, by the way, I think I can name them: League of Legends, which I've never played, Overwatch, haven't played that one. Not Fork Knife,
I broke him.
Fork Knight, which I've never played. However, the ones I have played, Rocket League, which
Yep.
I'm not great at, as you saw,
And we'll
and
use played liberally in this case, but continue.
which I held a controller for, and one I do
accurate.
know more than anything, Madden
Yes.
has traditionally been
NCFB 25.
yes,
Computer-based sports games, essentially.
and it has been Madden up until this year, and is now NCAA football. So my question is, with that, obviously, when you had and you've had a national championship or champion for Madden or championship in Madden before, those are all NFL teams. All the
Correct.
you'll have some teams that are obviously better than others, but with NCAA, obviously you can have terrible teams playing against good teams. You match up against whoever you're playing each week. This year, what a great year it is to be a Bronco this year. Not only football
Got
field,
Ashton Genty on the roster, yeah.
but my gosh, up to a 97 overall, I think, right now.
Right.
What if you're playing a team like Wyoming? Are they like, we're going to be Alabama?
Well, the games do allow you to essentially make the rosters pretty consistent. You still have your strong player abilities, which happen in those games, but it's a little bit more normed. So we will play Wyoming this week in CFB 25.
Okay, great.
Matthew Wilson will play their player. And actually, if we, knock on wood, host the Mountain West Championships, we will also host the Mountain West CFB 25 Championships, which looks to be our player versus the SJSU player right now.
Oh.
And they'll fly here to play that, maybe even on the Jumbotron. We'll see how it goes. Might be kind of cold for the Jumbotron, but we'll find out.
I wonder if there's any analytics to ever look and see how many of the same plays were played with the live game versus the.
So, and follow-up question: where are you in your graduate studies? To your question, just about the games in general, the games continue to change every year. A little bit. Now, there's some that we've had for 7 and 8 years, but there'll probably be a time where Overwatch is not on our roster because there'll be another game that we like. We love Overwatch because it is the broadest and most diverse male-female player culture.
Awesome.
All of them have young men and young women that play it, but competitively with 2 support roles, which tend to be just gravitational to some players, female players specifically. That one remains a really diverse group. We played with 2 female players on stage this week out of 5 in Sacramento, which is something you see more common in that game than others. But that said, the games that you mentioned Call of Duty and some of those, they almost all have correlated or relative games that are T-rated, which is what we support.
That's right. Yeah.
T-rated games, even so, if they're really good at CS:GO or CS2, that is an M-rated game with some blood splatter. There's another game which is called Valorant, which is the same tactics, same economic structure, but it's all techno magic, right? People get beamed out just like they do in Fortnite, right? You knock somebody down in Fortnite, and that little bot comes in, beams them out, right? They're not dead; they just got teleported, right?
Right.
So little things like that make a difference in how a game is rated, and we have those alts for most of those games that people come in and play.
So, are there any games right now on the horizon that either we have heard of, or maybe don't even know about yet, that are on your radar or the eSports radar in general that could be coming up?
CFB, College Football 25. I think we're still 2 years away from the college basketball version of it, but that one's coming as well. Any of those like EA style sports games are on the rise again, and we're looking for folks. The difference is those aren't really team games as much as they are. So we're looking for a player in that game. Street Fighter 6, which is a really splashy. I mean, you're like Street Fighter. I remember that at the arcade. Yep, same franchise. It looks pretty cool now as well, but that's a game we're playing a lot of, and there's a game on the horizon called Deadlock, which is kind of a blend between League of Legends, so it's wave management, towers, and things like that, trying to get to a core that you take down 5v5, but in a first-person, more Overwatch style of view. That's really popular right now. We'll see if it translates, because at the end of the day, just like Nampa High can play any game reasonably, what matters is who you play against. So those in the NSD that play Rocket League, hey, that's a competitive title, because you are not going to lose. Or no, let's ramp up all the local schools against those from the east side of the state. Almost the same letters, right? From Shelley and, Highland, and we play them, every year in the high school events, right? So it really is, what are they playing? What can we play together? What can we play online together so that we don't have to travel kids all the time, except a couple times a year? That I think that's how you find a game. And anybody listening to this is not going to know, well, like, hey, he didn't mention, this game. No, we're good. But the kids know what they are. It's just finding what they're interested in. And it happens every year. Someone will come and say, hey, do you have Guilty Gear, which is another fighting game? Like, no, but tell me more about it. And then we find out that there's a circuit and there are other schools playing it. Like, we'll support you in that. We can't scholarship you for that necessarily, but we'll support you. We'll get you jerseys. We'll broadcast some of your matches. We'll, you can play as Boise State. And they're like, yeah, that's awesome. So there are games that pop up all the time that we can support kids in, and high schools can too, middle schools can too, that don't necessarily have a specific opponent that you have to play against. Everything can be online, and that is what makes esports so powerful.
So speaking of opponents, during the giving games, I watched Matt play Prater in CFB 25. Matt and I have our own online dynasty that we're playing, and we play each other next.
Nice.
He has not seen me play, but I've seen him play. So I can kind of see his tendencies. But what is your assessment on how I can beat Matt?
Okay. So Doc's keys to the game.
Doc's keys to the game
against Matt is, first of all, engage him in conversations that will have him teach you about the game unnecessarily. Right? He is such a kind heart that if you say, hold on, how do I call a timeout again? He will forget his strategy. He will stop looking at his plays, and he'll show you the button combination.
And he'll decline the penalties.
And he will decline the penalties.
All of them, yeah.
Yep. He is the nicest. Now that he's hearing this, he might
Change his strategy.
Yeah. I don't think he'll change his strategy, do you? No.
No.
So yeah, part of it is the mental play of just distraction. Truly, we were on stage in Sacramento, and we realized, and I'm stomping on the floor here, that the stage really reverberated. And I told our player, just don't be startled, but when we applaud, we're also going to stomp our feet for you as well, because it just creates this thunderousness, and that makes the opponent uncomfortable. Right. So, I mean, could make both of them equally uncomfortable, but it's a very foreign situation. Just like cheering, right? We had our crowd cheer louder when our player did great stuff. That's when you find out, these are mental games, right? So when you find out how much your opponent can tolerate, and if they're really good at it and they just continue to kick your butt, then they were stronger than you were, right? But yeah. Also, just look at the user that he's selecting. That player's coming in. That player's chasing your quarterback.
I did
It's
pick
always
up
the
on
right
that,
end.
and he always plays to the left.
I
He
always
will
play-
not throw to the right. I kept saying in the chat,
Oh,
go
yeah.
right, go right, go right.
Like Zoolander, he's an ambi-turner.
Not an ambi-turner. I should have mentioned before you started giving him tips that he's in the dynasty. He's playing as Washington. I'm playing as BSU, by the
Okay.
way. So just throwing that out there.
So, well, okay. So it sounds like he already has a handicap that he can't. Okay, all right. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, that said, any final thoughts from you, Cody?
No, I'm just happy that we're on this road and stuff's happening, and I'm looking forward to this for our schools and our kids. And I really appreciate Doc and the stuff that he's
You
willing
are
to help. And-
absolutely crushing it. So, one small thought. Apologize
Yeah,
for the
no,
length of
go.
this,
Please.
but I get a lot of misplaced credit that compliments from people. But I am constantly surprised and amazed at the creativity, you specifically, but also our colleagues around the state.
Yeah, thank you.
Folks like Dalton up at Sandpoint and Nate, who was part of the district. Now he's at the Death Star? No, I'm sorry, Bishop Kelly.
Bishop Kelly. Yeah.
There we go. But just at the amount of creativity that you are putting into this that actually inspire and push us. It truly is the case. I'll turn around and this is not normal on a college campus. I'll see something that's happening in the state, and I had no part in that, and I just get to come in and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right. Or I get to come in and borrow from it. They came up with a tournament structure that allows 8 teams to continue playing for 3 straight rounds, and the kids get what I always think is the win condition, which is games played. The more games you play, the better you feel about how you did. Getting eliminated in the first game, that just stinks, right? They came up with this great structure where everybody gets to keep playing, but you still have that 1 through 8 placement at the end. It's so cool. We didn't come up with that. Yeah, and this is cool. This is inspiring. This is a reminder that we can do cool things. And so thanks for the inspiration.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. And I mean, Doc, I was going to say any last words or thoughts for our program, but you just, I think, got it all out there, and we're just so excited. As you know, a lot of this was modeled after everything you guys have done. And I mean, your program's so incredible, and having you here today has just been really something special for us. And I'm sure
Oh my
our
gosh, I
listeners,
just
so.
love talking about these kids and the cool stuff they're doing.
Yeah, we're really excited to be able to bring this to the kids here at NSD and just know the opportunities they
Yeah.
can have. And it's not, to the parents, it's not just video games anymore.
No.
It's not. It's a potential career
And
future.
one thought on that. I mean, we're thinking about the December opening and the spring matches and some of these moments. What is hard for us to fathom as we stand on the deck of the ship, the curvature, what lies ahead. For these kids, there's going to be a moment 25 years from now where one of these kids is going to be standing with a group, and it could be these games, it could be other games, it could be other things, where they're going to be leading them, and they're going to be calling back to this experience that they had that you all created, and the people listening empowered and enabled. that is going to make a huge difference on people you've never met, probably aren't even born yet. We don't see the impacts of those things, but they are there, and they drive what make this important to us without us even knowing what they are. That's the gift, right? Is that hard work and loving people and enabling them to do what they do well creates opportunities for them to do the same in ways we can't even imagine. There's an Olympian, there's an eSports Olympian, or an Olympic coach that's going to come through the NSD process because this exists, right? In the same way that an NFL coach came from a high school in Texas that no one would even thought would, you see these famous people at all these schools that came through this environment because you gave them opportunities to do cool things without even knowing what it would be.
Whew.
There you go.
Talk about inspiration.
I think that's the words right there.
Jeez.
Well, Matt, since you are the voice of Boise State eSports, I'm going to let you take it home.
All right. Well, everybody, this has been episode number 15 of the Nampa School District Podcast. We want to thank Doc Haskell for being here today, Boise State eSports head coach, as well as Cody Kreps. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Doc. We'll talk to you next week.